Welcome back to the 33rd episode of the Poster Podcast. I'm, as ever, joined with Owen. So you talk, Owen, you say something.
We never do this. I never
Owen, say something. Owen, say something.
The Sixers are back. There you go.
Thank you, Owen. And today, and for the next few episodes, we're going to be reviewing the seasons of teams in certain divisions and telling them what they should do because we're superior when it comes to basketball knowledge. Allegedly. No, not so allegedly.
It's a fact. It's a
We're
fact.
better than some people. And today,
Yeah, most Americans.
yeah. And today we will be concentrating on the Atlantic Division. So that is Owen's team, the 76ers.
Mm-hmm.
The conference finalist Boston Celtics. The New York Knicks, just a mess. We'll get onto that. The Brooklyn Nets. And the Raptors. Lovely division, full of good teams in the Knicks. There's no real other place to start apart from Philadelphia. And obviously, being a 76ers fan, Owen, I feel like you've got a lot to say. A lot has changed. So just go for it.
Yeah, well, obviously, the playoffs was pretty bad. Getting swept in the first round, never ideal. And also signing Horford and Tobias to those big contracts, not very good. But it's all resulted in us having the best front office in the league and the best coaching staff. Yesterday, the day we hired Daryl Morey, Dan Burke, Sam Cassell, Pete Dominguez, probably one of the best days as a Sixers fan we've had for probably since we last traded for Jimmy Butler, like 2 years ago.
Why are these guys so important then? What makes these guys so good and why are they going to fix Philly?
Well, we go from having the most incompetent front office in the league, with owners who are very stubborn and with massive egos. So thankfully, they swallowed their pride and they've actually hired good people who are smarter than them. When we had Sam Hinkie, one of the reasons they fired him was because he was smarter than them. They basically alluded to that. They always wanted to be the smartest person in the room. But now we've hired Hinkie's mentor and Daryl Morey. So we're going back to the process. Not really a process, but this is more of like a completion of the process, really. And then the coaching staff, I can't believe it. We got about 4 coaches there who easily could have got head coaching jobs. It's great. We're going from Brett Brown to this. It's unbelievable. It's such an upgrade.
And it's all down to Jimmy Butler.
All because he left us. He left us going to the finals and it made our front office look like idiots. And that's why goal has changed. So again, Jimmy Butler saved the day.
It's been a great year for Jimmy Butler. He's without probably even knowing it, he fixed Philly and then got a great trade to Miami and made them great.
Yeah, it makes going through this tough season all worth it because now we're in such a great position in terms of front office and coaching staff. Still, the players need to be figured out. There's still a lot of problems there, but we're like 2/3 of the way there now. 2/3 of the way.
As you're saying about needing to fix the players, because obviously, as we saw from this season, the players didn't really work. Do you have faith that these guys will make the right changes?
Completely. Daryl Morey he's probably one of the most respected GMs in the league. Well, he's not GM, he's a president of basketball. If anyone can fix this mess, it's him. I wouldn't say a genius, but he's probably one of the smartest presidents in the league. What he did with the Rockets, going from Yao Ming and Tracy McGrady to James Harden without ever tanking. He was able to get the next superstar and build a team that I think since he's been there, only the Spurs have a better winning percentage than the Rockets. So they're always consistently one of the best teams in the league. Sometimes his teams are too one-dimensional. With the Rockets, it was always step back, threes or nothing. But Morey, people misinterpret him as just a 3-point guy, but he's more about having shooting the most efficient shot. And with our team, the most efficient shot is the basket, getting layups. Because Joe, when he's motivated, he's unstoppable below the rim. Ben can only shoot below the rim. So, people are thinking trade Ben because he doesn't shoot threes. Doesn't make sense because Morey just isn't about only threes. Because if you look at Westbrook, I think that's a great example of Morey not only shooting threes, because with the Thunder, Westbrook shot 6 threes a game, whereas with OKC, just only 2. So it's not all about 3-point shots. It's about getting the most efficient one.
OKC and Thunder are the exact same team.
Did I say OKC and
Yeah,
Thunder?
obviously meant to say
Damn.
Houston.
Yeah, Houston.
You were saying that Daryl Morey looks for the most efficient shot, but and we were saying about Houston just throw up threes, is a step back three the most efficient shot you could possibly find in that Houston team?
Well, I think they go along the lines of a 3-point shot. Taking a contested three is better than a contested mid-range. And when you have someone like Harden who was willing to fully embrace that, and he took it to the extremes because he's good enough to do that. Whereas if you had a Furkan Korkmaz, he won't be taking step back threes because he can't do it. So yeah. But then again, so Morey loves analytics, right? Glenn Rivers, because there's only one doc in Philadelphia. Glenn, back in LA, always ignored the analytics. So I don't know how they're gonna sort of compromise, because they're two completely ends of the spectrum. So, but that could be a potential concern. But these are two of the most respected guys in the league, so I trust them to really get the most out of this.
One more point on Morey. You were saying that he's a very intelligent man. He did sign off on the CP3 Russ trade, though, which gave us a lot of picks.
It was their owner, Tillman Fertitta, who Rockets fans now hate. He was the one who signed off on the trade, so it was basically his fault.
So it's still a dub for you then.
So yeah, Morey is weird because his team's never done quite enough to win a championship. They've always been there, like in and around the conference finals, and for Philly, that's good enough for me. I'm not expecting the championship. I just want us to be a good run franchise, which we haven't really been since I've been a fan, which is quite sad. But now we have a bunch of pedigree there in the front office and coaching staff, which is weird because I'm always used to a bunch of dysfunction.
Yeah. Well, so you've got a whole new front office. You've got the new coaching staff. What do you want to happen with all these players?
I don't think like wholesale changes is the answer. You want some sort of consistency, because in terms of the players, every year we've had a different roster. We need some continuity, and I think obviously getting off of Horford's contract is big. I think we have to get rid of him. But with Toby, I would keep Toby, because if you look at Doc Rivers, he got the best out of him. When Toby was playing for the Clippers, he shot 43% from three, which is, we need shooters. And if Doc can get him back to that, especially with Daryl Morey there, who loves 3-point shots as well, he might be the perfect power forward for us. So I think the only real big change is Horford, maybe Josh Richardson, get them out, and bring in someone like a Buddy Hield, who again will stretch the floor and give space for Ben and Joe.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with that. Like, I feel like this is the season now where you run it one more time with Ben and Joel to see if it will work. If you can keep Joel playing well for a whole season, then you keep him. If not, I say next year you trade him.
Yeah, well, I was watching a video on YouTube. It was talking about Ben and Joe and their pairing. It's crazy how quickly they've gone from being young up and coming players to they need to get rid of them. Like, they've spent 3 years together. 2 of the seasons they've had over 50 wins. They got to the second round in the Ben's rookie season, dominated Miami that series. In the second year, they could have won a championship if Kawhi didn't hit the luckiest shot of all time. So I don't get why. Like, there hasn't been enough stuff going wrong to suggest they need to move on. I would give them 2 or 3 more years. And also, when they have the right players around them, Ben and Joe are one of the best duos in the league. Going back to when we had Redick, Covington, and Dario, 3 players who could all space the floor, Ben and Joe were perfect together. It's one of the best duos in the league statistically. Then when you last season had J. Rich, who can't shoot, Toby, who was very poor, and then Al Horford, who again was very poor, Ben and Joe really took the blame for it, even though it's not their fault that our front office was just so dumb, So now Daryl Morey, he's 100% going to get the right people there to surround Ben and Joe.
Yeah, it depends how like what sort of like win mentality the front office and the coaching staff will have. Because obviously, if this season coming up doesn't go as well as you'd want it to go, and Joel doesn't really play to the levels that you'd want him to, or Ben doesn't. If they want to bring in a championship soon, you might see one of them being traded. But if they want to kind of build something over a few more years, they might keep them.
And that's the thing with Daryl Morey, he's never scared to make a big move. You look at trading Chris Paul, they got to the conference finals, and if Chris Paul didn't get injured, they probably wouldn't have made the finals. But yeah, they still pushed on to make that move. It wasn't the right move for Westbrook, but he's aggressive. I remember seeing a quote from Daryl Morey. He said, "When you haven't got your franchise players, your franchise should always be in a state of flux. You should always be making every move possible to make that next step." But we have two franchise players, so now I know Daryl Morey likes to trade draft picks for role players. I'm not a fan of that, but if this puts us in a position to make a run for a championship, I think it's kind of worth it. And also, Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers, they're not like particularly good at drafting, so you could make the argument that it would be better for them to trade those picks for players instead of selecting players who are going to be busts.
Yeah, what do you see like Ben Simmons this season? Would you rather see him play power forward and you bring in a playmaker at point guard, like another playmaker to play with Ben? Or would you rather see him play at the point?
I think Doc put it best. We should just completely ignore like labels as positions. Obviously, Ben is going to be down low, but Ben, like, don't give him a label. Ben is a point guard. He's a power forward. He's anything because he's good enough to be anything on the court. So, but I always think with Ben, space the floor because he's the best in the league at getting players open 3-point looks. And with Daryl Morey, who loves threes, Ben is perfect because he generates all those shots. But I think it would be useful to have another ball handler on the team who can also shoot and defend. Maybe that's asking too much. Um, Someone like Chris Paul would be good, but the fact he's 36, when is he going to fall off in terms of playing ability? I wouldn't give up a lot for him. If we can get him for cheap, then by all means do it. But I'm sure OKC would want Matisse or Shake Milton first round picks. I wouldn't give that up for Chris Paul. But yeah, for Ben and Joe, get players who can space the floor. That's the short answer, really.
So, do you think a trade for Buddy Hield's possible? And what do you think? Would you think it'd take Horford and Richardson? What do you think that trade would look like?
Well, Buddy clearly wants out, and he wants to come to Philadelphia. You see where he's putting on social media. He wants to be in Philly, but he's got a new long-term contract, so the Kings have no reason to trade him. So it's going to be tough. But then again, what do we have to offer? All we really have is Toby, which I'd want to keep right now. So Al Horford out trade, and I know the Kings were interested in him last summer, but after seeing how he performed this year, like, would they still want him at that price? I think Jay Rich sweetens the deal, but he's only got one more year left on his contract. So if we give him Horford, I think we would have to give up one of our young guys, whether that's Matisse or Shake. And I don't want to get rid of those two. I think in an ideal world, the perfect trade would be Horford, Jay Rich, and our 21st pick. But would they accept that? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like the trade might sound okay, but then like you don't know what like the front offices want or what they like, what players want to keep, what their plans are. Because like we've seen bad trades happen before. Like people get traded for like nothing, and like I'm gonna use the AD trade. I'm not saying the AD trade was a bad trade, but like the whole Lakers roster getting traded for AD, like trades are weird. It depends on who's involved. But would you say the dream lineup for? Oh, go on. What is your dream lineup for the next season?
Obviously, this is going to be a realistic version now, within like reason of what we could potentially do this summer. So if we come out with this off season with a starting five of, say, Ben, Buddy Hield, Matisse, have him starting small forward, Toby and Embiid. I think that's the best case scenario.
That's exactly what I would have said as well.
Yeah,
Because Tease
and
can kind of shoot the three. Like,
he
if you
started
put him
off
in the
the season
corners.
incredibly well, but he had an injury. He had for a couple of weeks, and when he came back, he just completely lost his shot. So he's shown potential in college, shooting from 3-point range in college. He was shooting over 40%, so he can do it. It's just more consistent he needs to get.
It reminds me a bit of Jeremy Grant when he was at OKC. Like, he was very Jeremy Grant was a very raw player when he was coming off the bench for OKC. And then over that season, we kind of developed him into a good defender. He was like he was using his length right, and he was getting in the corners and shooting efficiently from the corners. And I feel like Tease
Yeah,
could have that kind of season if he's used
yeah,
right.
He's always in the corners. He's always in the perfect spot to shoot threes. He's always open, and he can hit those shots. And I think if you have Buddy, Hield, and Toby in your starting lineup, you need to have defenders around them. If you put Shake in that starting lineup, all of a sudden you've got three players who can't defend. Same with Fergon, he can't defend. So I think Matisse, hopefully he could grow into some sort of like maybe a Robert Covington. I think that's his ceiling. That's where we want him to get. One of the best defenders in the league already. He just needs to become a consistent shooter. And that's it. If you can do that, he's perfect for us.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say as well. If Buddy Hield does come in and you're going to play Buddy Hield, you're going to want Tease for his defense in there because he's also he's a very good defender already as a rookie. So he's only going to get better.
Yeah, well, this might be a little bit biased. I think he's probably top 5 perimeter defenders already. Like he's insane.
Yikes!
Like
Yeah,
you see what someone like Kemba says about him. You see what all these top players say about him, and like as a rookie, he has no right being that good already. It's crazy. And now you're bringing in Dan Burke, who's arguably the best defensive coach in the NBA. You're giving him to Matisse, like it's crazy. Like if anyone can unlock the defensive potential on this team is Dan Burke. So uh, just thinking about what could happen next year is like crazy exciting. But I'm just waiting to get let down again because the things are going too well right now. I'm just waiting for us to like do something stupid.
yeah. You were a lot more excited last season for like the last season when the Al and the Toby trades happened.
I was out of control last season.
Yeah, you were very excited then, and to see you this excited again this time, I can only think there's going to be something bad, like a bad trade or a season-ending injury for Ben or Joel.
Well, I saw like someone's going to pay the price for all this good fortune that we're having right now, whether it's our next rookie or.
Someone has
But
to take
maybe
a bullet.
all of our rookie curse of all our rookies getting injured every single season. Maybe this was all for this. We paid our bad luck in the past, and this is our good luck. This is our good fortune.
No, whoever you draft is going to have a horrible, horrible injury.
And that's why Maury should trade our first round picks.
Yeah, but if you trade that pick, you know what's going to happen. Whoever that pick goes to, they'll become like a star.
Probably.
And you look like, oh, we shouldn't have traded that pick. And that's the curse staying with you. Like, you're cursed. Your team's cursed.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Philly. It was a disappointing season. You could tell that from what our predictions were, what we thought the ceiling of that team could have been. Definitely a disappointing season, but so far looking very good with all the changes. It's just where the changes really matter and what team is going to start this season. Do you get Buddy Hield? What are the other options? Who are the players you have in mind?
There's really not many other options. I mean, the long shot is Bradley Beal. But I can't see that happening at all.
I think everybody's long shot is Bradley Beal. Every team is like Bradley Beal.
Oh, if we can somehow get rid of Horford to the Knicks because they want to absorb salaries for draft picks, so we could give Horford to the Knicks and a first round pick, and then use the cap space, wherever cap space we have, to sign a Joe Harris or a Davis Bertans. We don't have much options, so we need to capitalize on the few options that we do have.
Yeah, the problem with that is I'd assume the Knicks would rather CP3 over Al Horford.
Yeah, but to get a CP, they would have to give up assets, wouldn't they? I think that they're sort of in the position of Philadelphia were in back in 2014, where we were taking on JaVale McGee's $10 million contract to get a first-round draft pick. So they just want to gain assets right now.
And you said if Horford goes to the Knicks, you could sign somebody in free agency. Would you really want, like you mentioned Bertans? Would you want Bertans and Tobias Harris in the same team? I feel like they're two kind of similar players.
Oh no, Bertans is an elite shooter, and he's basically perfect for our lineup because
Are you saying
he does.
Tobias isn't an elite shooter?
Oh, no, no, Bertans. Whenever I was watching the Wizards, he'd be like off the dribble from about 72 feet away from the basket, and he'd just launch and he'd make it. He's like he's in our top tier of shot makers with a Duncan Robinson and JJ Redick. Yeah, he can't defend to save his life, but that 3-point shooting is exactly what we need. And when you have someone like a Matisse, a Ben, and a Joe, who are all top tier defenders, you don't really need, a Bertans to be great defensively. Just exist and don't be a sieve. Just hold your ground and that's it.
Yeah, and if, like, obviously it's all hypothetical, but if that trade did happen, you're talking about defense with Bertans not being able to defend, Tobias Harris not being a good defender, but you'd still have Ben and Dybul, or Ben and J. Rich, who's a good defender as well. So you'd still have like the two and Joel, and obviously Ben being 7 foot practically, he guards everybody. Yeah. So,
and also with Dan Burke coming in, I remember TJ Warren at the Suns, one of the worst defenders in the league, horrific, so bad. Dan Burke turned him into an above-average defender, so he can work wonders. I wouldn't be surprised if he turns Shake Milton into a good defender. So he has that impact on players.
I've seen Shake Milton play. I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. He's a magician.
Yeah, in the hypothetical world of Al going to the Knicks, I'd probably rather go for somebody like Joe Harris over. I just don't like the how big, heavy that team would look.
Yeah, but it might be a situation where they get Horford and they waive him. They give him all his money up front and then just get rid of him. You never know. Or move him onto a different team whilst keeping some of his salary. I think their main priority right now is getting draft picks over winning.
I want to talk about the Knicks. I was talking about the Philly team, having Ben, Toby, Bertans, and Joel all in the starting lineup. I don't like how that seems like sluggish and heavy to me.
Yeah, Bertans is a bench piece. He comes off the bench in Washington. He's like a spark plug. J. Rich, I hope he's traded. I don't want to see him starting another game for us. Like for someone who's a ball handling shooting guard, he can't handle the ball and he can't shoot. He can defend. I'll give him that. He's a very good defender, but we need someone else there in his place.
I liked J. Rich when he was at Miami. I remember watching him when he played point guard a few times for Miami, and I just thought he looked all right. But he came to
when he played point guard for us, he was complete. Maybe that's the effect of Brett Brown. Anyone who comes to Philadelphia becomes a worse player. You look at Toby, became a much worse player than what he was at the Clippers. J. Rich was much worse. Al Horford was so much worse. Alec Burks was a worse player than what he was at Golden State. Glenn Robinson was a worse player than what he was at Golden State. There's a common theme. Maybe Brett Brown was just a really bad coach.
Well, don't say that because he seems like the only option for OKC at the moment.
If you could get Kenny Atkinson, he's still out there. Kenny Atkinson. I can't say
we just run no head coach this season. just make CP3 retire and get him as head coach. Yeah, we'll talk about OKC and that's a later date. I don't know when that's coming up. But yeah, that's pretty much Philly.
Yeah.
Pray for Bradley Beal.
Yeah.
But definitely get rid of Al Horford.
Get rid of Al Horford and J. Rich and get Buddy. I think that's the minimum for us.
Yeah, but I feel like if the J. Rich and if the Buddy Hield trade isn't possible, I feel like it's more important to get rid of Al than J. Rich.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So moving on, slightly lower than Philly, we got the team that swept them in the playoffs. The Boston Celtics. If you missed the playoffs, I think you didn't know who was coming up next. Yeah, it is Boston, and I feel like we spoke about it when we reviewed the bubble. This team is very good, and they're just missing very small pieces.
Yeah, they're set for the future. They got their star players. All they have to do is just add role players now. Add a center, and just add someone off the bench who can be some sort of threat. That's all they have to do, really.
Yeah, their bench is incredibly weak, and like Cantor and Dice are not great centers. So, but what are the options out there for them? Who can they bring in to make this team better?
It's a tough one. I wasn't prepared to answer that question.
Is an awkward one because of like it's not a good free agency.
Yeah, I mean Drummond is available, and I saw they were interested in him, but I don't know. They don't have the cap space to sign him, so it would have to be some sort of sign and trade, where maybe they give Gordon Hayward to the Cavs. But I don't know why the Cavs would be interested in that sort of deal. So yeah, Danny Ainge is a very good GM, so I'm sure he could figure something out. But yeah, it's very short of options.
There's a lot of rumors of Hayward moving. There's a lot of teams seem to be interested in signing Gordon Hayward, so that could be an option. But that's also their bench points. I mean, he's a starter. Marcus Smart usually comes off the bench, but how good Marcus Smart was in the playoffs, you could easily see him. Like it's very interchangeable who comes off the bench in that Celtics team, Smart or Hayward. But is it the right idea to trade Hayward? It depends what they get, really. But
yeah, it depends what they get. Like he's a good piece when healthy, but the only problem is he can't stay healthy, and that's a problem when you're paying him over $30 million a year. But then again, him and Brad Stevens has such a close relationship. They went to college. Brad Stevens coached him in college, so I don't think Brad would just give up on Gordon. But when they already have Jaylen Brown and Tatum, there's already two of their main scorers. Do they need another shoot first player? I don't think they need it. So if they can get rid of him, they probably should, but only if they can get equal value in return.
Yeah, they definitely have they have the upper hand on the trade. They don't need to trade him.
Yeah,
teams want him.
Yeah. Looking at the list of free agents, it's not looking good. They could bring back Aaron Baines, maybe. Hassan Whiteside is available. That could be an option for them.
Yeah, Whiteside would be pretty good.
Yeah, but apart from that, it's like Tristan Thompson or Bismack Biyombo. Like, there's not many like game-changing players.
Bring in Bismack, great man, great player. Yeah, like, what pick do they have this? Where does their pick lie?
They got a couple. I think they got 2 or 3 first-rounders. They have a pick in the lottery. So they got options. They could trade those picks for players,
What do you think their options are with their picks then? What players should they be looking out for?
Definitely a point guard. Definitely a backup point guard because Brad Wanamaker, he did decent in the playoffs. He's 30, 31, not quite good enough. Kemba's 30. So I think they need to start preparing for the future at point guard. And this class is pretty decent at point guard. You could wait till the back end of the second round and still get a good point guard, It really does depend on what Boston needs. Do they want another shoot first player like Cole Anthony? I don't think he'd be a good fit. Or a more defensive pass first point guard like Trey Jones. The options are there. There's so many there's all kinds of point guards available in this draft. So it depends on what they want.
Yeah, if they've got two picks, you'd be looking like maybe bringing a center and a point guard.
Yeah, again, this is a good center class as well. Like, not many. You have James Wiseman high in the draft and Okongwu, but apart from that, the other centers are all slated to go around late first, early second. So they probably can afford to wait on a center, or they could just trade up. They got the picks to trade up. Who knows? If they get Okongwu, I hope you're very sad. I'd be very sad. I'd be gutted.
Yeah, I was gonna say trading up for a Okongwu might be a good idea for you, saying how deep like the point guard, like the amount of good point guards there are, or like decent point guards. So it might be a good idea to trade up. I saw like a spoiler. I don't really rate Wiseman that highly, and I saw something that the Hornets were looking to trade up for him, which was a massive yikes for me.
I saw that. It was like the deal. They'd give up pick 3 and their first round pick next year to trade to number 1. First of all, why would you trade up for a centre? Because Wiseman could very well be there at 3.
Yeah.
Also, if you don't get Wiseman, you get Okongwu, in my opinion, who's a better fit. He's a better team centre. But then again, Wiseman does have the highest ceiling. But then you could just he could be an Anthony Davis, or he could just be a Whiteside.
Way too weak. Way too weak. I'm not a fan. Could be proven wrong, but from what I've seen with him in college, not a big fan. And obviously, Boston drafted many players last season, but in the first round, they got Romeo Langford. What obviously didn't play much this season, played like small minutes in the playoffs. What do you make of Langford, and what do you think his ceiling is?
Coming out of high school, I really liked him. I thought he was a really good player. But unfortunately, he played his full college season with a broken thumb, I think. Then came to the NBA and was basically injured for the whole season. He had little spurts of playing 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there. But you can never get a consistent run. And when you're with a team who wants to win a championship, they can't afford to just wait around on a young player. But hopefully he can stay healthy because he can be a decent player one day. But again, it was kind of strange seeing Boston pick a wing when they already have Marcus Smart, Hayward, Tatum, and Jaylen Brown. It seemed quite a weird pick when they needed a center, when they needed a point guard. So it was a bit of a weird one.
Yeah, most of my knowledge last year came from 2K, pretty much. Before we bought the NBA League Pass, and I was literally only watching OKC games. But so yeah, I was really confused about Romeo Langford because on 2K I'd play against him sometimes on a my league save, and he'd be draining like 30-foot 3-pointers, like highly contested, and I'd be like, who's this guy? Like, who's got? And then I'd play another save, a different save, and he'd be like, he couldn't shoot the 3. Then he'd come to the league, and he very much couldn't shoot the 3, and I was very confused to what sort of weird glitch I had on 2K where he didn't miss a 3.
Yeah, I think in real life, his shot was just mainly affected by his thumb. It's been broken for about 2 years now, so he just needs to get healthy. That's the main thing for him.
So it's all pretty clear and cut with Boston. They have a great team, great youngsters. Run it back. Try and draft well, and you'll have another good season. What do you think their ceiling is for this season?
Considering how unpredictable the East is, the finals, they could very well make the finals. I definitely wouldn't write them off.
Yeah, I can see them. I can see them making conference finals definitely again next year. But like you said, with that game against the Heat, like if you don't come up against that incredible Bam Adebayo performance and how well Jimmy Butler played in some of those games, they probably, and if they just kept like their consistency, like they could have easily been in the finals against the Lakers over the Heat. Yeah. Good team. Run it back.
Yeah.
Now moving on to a team that definitely shouldn't run anything back. They should run it down, blow it up, get in the tank. Well, I mean, they've been in the tank for as long as I've watched basketball. It's the New York Knicks. Again, if you couldn't pick that up, it was pretty The Knicks. The power forward, where power forwards go to die. You made a lot of notes, Owen, about what you think should happen with the Knicks. So I'm just gonna let you speak about it. What should the Knicks do this season?
Well, the Knicks have already got a new front office. They got a new coach, so they're clearly resetting. They're restarting their rebuild for which seems like the 100th time in the past 10 years. It's crazy. We both started our rebuild at the same time basically, and they're still at at the bottom level. I'm not saying we're much higher, but the Knicks are still very much trying to get off the ground. Tom Thibodeau for me was quite of a weird hire because he's never been good with young players. At Chicago, they got rid of him because they started to rebuild. In Minnesota, he was toxic. They needed to get rid of him because he wasn't good for the young players. So a very weird hire, but maybe the Knicks want to start to become a respectable franchise. They want to have some sort of culture, and they know with Thibodeau, he's going to instill that hard working mentality, sort of like the Heat. And I was saying, like the Knicks or New York as a city, a very hard-nosed, tough, gritty city. They need to be built like the Heat. Where on the court, teams are not scared to play them, but like they're like, oh, here we go. It's gonna be a tough 48 minutes. They're gonna be scrapping for everything. Their team needs to be filled with players like Marcus Smart. That's their identity. You go back to the team in the 90s, like someone like John Starks, he was so gritty. Like he was such a tough defender, and they need players like that, like throughout the whole team. And they just haven't. They haven't got it. They haven't found those players. They haven't got the right coaches. So this season is sort of big because yeah, they want to attract the star players, but to do that, they need to have an organization who's already there, who's already building a winner. Because you look at KD and Kyrie last year, where everyone thought they were going to the Knicks. Not being funny, like who's looking at the Knicks and say, I want to play with Kevin Knox? Like who's saying that? They need to build a respectable organization, have like 2, 3, 4 years of consistently making the 6th or 7th seed. Show that you can win games, and then over time, players will want to join that team. You look at Miami from the 90s and 80s. They weren't like a big team. They were just there. They were consistently doing okay. Then all of a sudden, they draft Dwayne Wade. They start winning, and then they attract the best player in the game, LeBron James. And yeah, they lost LeBron, but they kept on winning, and they got Jimmy Butler. So that's I think the Heat are the perfect example of who the Knicks should aspire to be like.
Yeah, and you're saying about like Tom Thibodeau bringing like that like grit back to the team. Maybe somebody like we were saying earlier about trading for CP3, like another leader. And with rumors that if CP3 leaves, Melo like to the Lakers or to the Knicks, Melo might want to follow him. You bring CP3 to the Knicks, you bring Melo back. You're starting to build a bit of a old meme team like the Lakers were doing, but it's a meme team with like good players, not J.R. Smith and Dion Waiters.
Yeah, personally, I wouldn't bring Carmelo back. He's not the sort of, he's not the identity I want the team to have. But CP, like, look what he's done for OKC. He's turned them from being, a Russell Westbrook team to being, a respectable, well-run team, and he's helped grow Dennis Schroeder and SGA. If he goes to New York, it's not the end of his career that I would want. I wanted to go to a contender and be a winner, but he can help change the culture for the Knicks. He could be a very important piece. But as I said earlier, the Knicks want to gain assets, and to get CP, they would have to give away assets, which I don't think they would want to do at this stage. I think the CP availability has come a bit too early for them.
Yeah, I wasn't saying like bring in Melo as like a great player. It's more of if CP3 comes in and then Melo follows him. You were saying about players don't want to come and play with Kevin Knox. Players would want to come and play with Melo and CP3.
Do you think? Well, at 34 Melo?
It's not even like people are looking at it thinking like, oh wow, like it's like looking at it like that's like a Hall of Fame. That's 2 like Hall of Fame players.
Yeah.
Like if I was like if I was like a role player, just like an average role player, and somebody said to me, "Do you want to go and live in New York and play with CP3 and Melo?" I'd say yes, very happily. I'd very happily leave like Minnesota or Detroit to go and play in New York and play with like 2 like legends.
Yeah, but one thing I want the Knicks to avoid this summer is signing Fred VanVleet. He wants 20 mil. They can't do that. I pray they don't do that, because I think we saw with Fred, he's an elite backup point guard, but when he's the main point guard, the star of the team, he's not very good. Like he's not built for that sort of role. And if he goes to the Knicks, where he will automatically become the best player, probably the highest earning player, he will think he's a star, and all of a sudden, you're at the start of your rebuild and you're already messed up. Sort of like Rozier back with the Hornets. They give a backup point guard all that money, and they've already ruined their rebuild. So I just hope they can avoid paying Fred.
Yeah, but what pick does the Knicks have?
8.
8. They always get screwed on picks. They always get so screwed. And you're saying about like this draft class being pretty deep. What do you think should be their main target, the 8th spot?
Anything apart from centers. They got Mitchell Robinson there. Perfect. If they accept the gift of Al Horford, he could be their backup center. So I think anything's on the table. Maybe they believe in RJ Barrett. They don't go with the shooting guard. But I think with the Knicks, they need a safe pick. They can't just go for like a high ceiling player, like a LaMelo. They need someone who they know is going to produce, like a Tyrese Halliburton or a
Or
Devin
Anthony?
Vassell. That's the number one player they should avoid. Like, if they draft him, like, it's curtains. Just may as well just disband the organization, send them to like the WNBA. But like, you just get a safe prospect, a safe person who will be a good player for this team for the next 10, 15 years. That's all they need to do. Just pick a safe player.
Yeah, and I'm only saying Cole Anthony because I did it when my Knicks save on 2K, and Cole Anthony was brilliant.
And he was
Cole
good,
Anthony is not as good as he is in 2K. Don't be fooled by 2K and the people who make the 2K rookies. Don't be fooled. Yeah, it's gonna be another one of those seasons. If I was in charge, I would definitely try and bring in CP3 and Melo just to. I don't know if that's just me thinking like nostalgically, just like because when I started watching basketball, one of my favorite players was Melo at the Knicks, and you could tell that because one of my other favorite players was Russ at OKC. It was very obvious. Like I had a theme, but I just feel like it'd be a more desirable place if they bring in a couple of old
they
players.
need to clean up their reputation. Just clean up your organization, build a culture, improve your reputation, and make the New York fans be proud to support the Knicks. Because I feel like nowadays, if you say you're a Knicks fan, it's kind of embarrassing. Like you said, oh, poor you, like it's such a bad team. The Knicks, they should be with the Lakers. They should be, one of the best teams in the league. It's one of the biggest markets. So, they need to be at the top of the league for the NBA.
Let Spike Lee back in the arena. I got Spike Lee shoes. I don't know if you can see that. Said Spike on the bottom.
Nice.
Yeah, let Spike Lee back in. Give him what he wants. Give him CP3 and Melo. I'm not going to be able to get them back in now. Oh, God, I'm making a mess. Yeah, that bit wasn't worth it. Yeah, let Spike Lee back in. Yeah, that's the Knicks. Yeah, just try and get rid of some power forwards.
Yeah.
Bring in a couple of old guys.
Get rid of Julius Randle. Trade him for anything. Get rid of him.
But that's one thing. If they want CP3, I do not want Randle.
You're going to have to take him for the money.
I don't want him, though.
Unless it's a 3-team deal and we give you Horford.
I don't want Horford either. I'd rather CP3 go to the Lakers and get like Kuzma or somebody.
Oh, no.
No, but think, if we're rebuilding, I wouldn't mind just seeing Kuzma play for a season.
He would help you. Yeah, he would help you.
I quite like Kyle Kuzma. Not as a player, just as like fashion and everything. He'd be well dressed with SGA in the game. He'd look good. It'd be nice pictures before the game, and then you'd come on and shoot 16% from 3-point. Yeah, I'd much rather get Kuzma in over getting Randle in.
Yeah, fair enough.
But again, we're not talking about OKC. That's for later. A later episode. But yeah, I kind of agree with the whole Fred VanVleet thing. You said they need like grit, and if you want grit from Toronto, you're looking at the wrong guard.
Yeah.
You'd rather Kyle Lowry over Fred VanVleet. But yeah, like I said, CP3 and Melo, get rid of Randle.
But does Melo bring that gritty attitude?
Who cares? It's Melo. Think of the fans.
To be fair, he would sell tickets maybe, but I would, if I was in charge, I wouldn't go near him.
He'd sell tickets. Like he'd get the fans back in. People would want to play with him.
But at that point, if you're building around a 36-year-old Chris Paul and a 35-year-old Carmelo, there's not much like future. Well, you want to like have CP to like mentor the young guys whilst also rebuilding.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. You're not looking. Well, are you looking to bring in players to build a team to start winning games and getting into the playoffs? I'm looking at looking at getting these players in to mentor younger players, help them win a couple of games, and still because they're finishing like in the bottom seeds and still getting the eighth, like they're still getting the eighth seed pick. So it doesn't matter if they finish like
Exactly. Yeah. So
12th,
you may as
they'll
well
still
try and
get these
win.
picks. But I
Yeah,
feel like
but
they'll
also
get more wins with Melo and CP3, and they might be able to bring in some younger talent that could see them like go stay on the team for a few years, where Melo and CP3 would only stay for like
yeah,
two,
I
3 years
think
max.
their young players need to learn how to win. 'Kay, at this point in their career, like Kevin Knox, Frank Ntilikina, Mitchell Robinson, they don't know how to win in the NBA, and Chris Paul would be perfect to teach them how to win. I think we need to build a roster who can win, who are winners, and who will do anything to win. You know, because that ultimately that's the best way to learn how to win is to actually win.
I just thought of CP3 mentoring Ntilikina.
Ah, Ntilikina, I'm so high on him. Like I think in the right team, he's a good player. He's the type of player who can contribute on a championship team. He just went to such a bad team, and the Knicks have kind of ruined his career in a way.
Just the way CP3 like improved Schroeder and SGA. Imagine he made those improvements to Ntilikina.
I think
We can all dream.
uh,
We can all dream.
we can all dream. He just needs to become consistent, have a coach that believes in him, and I think Tibbs will really like Ntilikina because he's a very good defensive player, and Tibbs he values defense over anything, and that's the reason Jimmy Butler is who he is today because of Tibbs. You know, so who knows? But then again, Tibbs is the reason Derrick Rose tore his ACL. So
Yeah, so that's the Knicks. Just try and win some games, guys. Just try and win. Just try your best. It won't be easy. Sign CP3, but don't give us Randall. That's what, like looking at the perspective of a Knicks fan. I'm like, yeah, I guess CP3 would be brilliant. Then from an OKC fan perspective, I'm saying I don't want Randall. Don't give me Randall. It doesn't work. I can't be both. I'm not both. Luckily.
What would you take?
What would I take from the Knicks?
Yeah.
I think we can save that for when we talk about OKC in future episodes.
All right. But like, let me just say, I saw someone say Randall and the number 8 pick. Why would the Knicks trade their pick?
Yeah.
I personally, I don't think a deal can be done because like the Knicks don't really have anything to give apart from Randall.
Yeah, it's a weird one. And again, we'll talk more about that when we talk about OKC. And moving not very far because it's another New York-based team, and it's the Brooklyn Nets. Obviously, this season's a big season for them. Kyrie should want to play. KD is fit and has been training recently. They've still got Karis LeVert and Spencer Dinwiddie to partner them with. They've got Steve Nash in as a coach. Sky's the limit, eh? Sky's the limit. Maybe not. Maybe not. What's going on, Owen? What's going on with the Nets?
You know, this team it has the talent, you know, but you gotta like hope Kyrie doesn't ruin the franchise like he did in Boston. You gotta hope KD comes back like his former self. You know, Achilles injuries tend to ruin careers. You know, only one player I can think of was Clyde Drexler. I think it was him, or who was it? Dominique Wilkins, who tore his ACL and came back a better player. But apart from that, everyone's always come back a much worse player. So I hope KD is back because when he's on top form, very fun to watch. Steve Nash, unproven, and immediately chucking him into a situation, a very volatile situation with Kyrie. You know, how is he going to handle as a coach? Who knows? So with the Nets, it's just hope and pray that everything works out. It's kind of dangerous because that's what the Sixers did last year, and it didn't work out. But with the Nets, similar to Boston, there's too much talent on this team. There's too many mouths to feed. You look at Kyrie, KD, Dinwiddie, LeVert. They're just a bunch of shoot first players who don't play defense. You know, so I just can't see this working perfectly. You know, they probably will, like crawl their way to 45 wins. But I don't think they're going to be this best team in the league that a lot of people think they will.
Oh yeah, a lot of people are saying like when it comes to the East, the Nets are going to be one of the best teams because they've got like one of the best scorers ever in KD. It hurts to say that, but it's true. And
Very true, yeah.
everybody remembers that like the Cavs Kyrie Irving, the LeBron and Kyrie both putting up 33 in that game 5. That's what everybody remembers. People tend to forget that what he did in Boston and what he did when LeBron left.
Yeah. This is a very different Kyrie. Like I don't think basketball is his main focus anymore. He's gone down the more like the social justice side of things, which fair play to him. He's doing a lot of good things there, which, like I wouldn't be surprised if he retires, like at any point, whether it's tomorrow or like in a year from now. I wouldn't be surprised if he just quits basketball.
Yeah, obviously Kobe down as well hit him quite hard at the time.
Yeah.
I don't think he played for a while after.
He played last season.
Yeah.
He didn't want to come back after his injury.
Well, that probably had something to do with the fact that KD wasn't there and he knew there was probably no hope in the team doing anything.
But then is that the type of attitude you want from your star player?
Not really, no.
No,
well, that's what I'm saying. We know that's the mentality he has. We know he was toxic in Boston, and look how well Boston have done now he's gone.
Yeah, like if you look at the mentality you'd want, Kyrie says he's very influenced by Kobe. Their personalities couldn't be more different. Kobe's the type of player, if all the odds are stacked against him, he would still somehow drag his team to the playoffs. He would always try to stand up to the challenge. Whereas Kyrie, he shies away from the challenge.
I saw a video this morning of when Kobe was on SNL or something, and one of those late night shows, and it was when the Lakers, it was like a run where Nick Young and that were on the Lakers, and they'd lost 8 games in a row, and they were all like celebrating, and Kobe's face when they showed him the video, I've never seen, like he looked so disgusted that they were celebrating losing 8 straight. KD's injury, isn't it the same injury that Boogie Cousins had?
Yeah.
That's what I never really thought about.
Kobe had it.
Yeah.
Kobe had it, and he took him from averaging 20 points a game to down into the teens. So I think KD will still be a very good player, but maybe not as explosive or as as dynamic as he used to be.
Yeah. I never really thought about how the effect the injury might have had on him until recently, and then you think this is the injury that kind of ruined Boogie Cousins and how good of a player prime Boogie was. To see what he is now, he's like a shadow.
Boogie did tear his ACL as well.
Yeah.
Which that definitely did not help, but it was the Achilles that sort of kickstarted at the end.
I was saying about how explosive KD is. We might see him take a step back and kind of just being like Kyrie making the plays and KD kind of being more catch and shoot for the more majority of the game rather than him creating his own shots because of the injury.
I don't think KD is wired that way. He could be a 45-year-old player and he will still want the ball in his hand for the whole game.
It just depends how he manages his injury and how the injury manages him.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at some examples of Achilles. Brandon Jennings, he was an electric point guard. Score first, averaging 20 points per game. After his injury, 7 points per game. That's a bit of a yucks. Kobe, before his injury, was averaging 27 points. After, only 22. So it's sort of like a death sentence for a player because literally 99 times out of 100 they won't be the same player.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to watch this team this season. Not necessarily watching their games, just watching from the outside to see how everything goes.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if last season it just collapses. Any
prediction
team with Kyrie could collapse.
Prediction: how quickly is Kyrie going to go crazy?
3 months, maybe.
3 months.
Not even 3 months.
Give him till March.
Yeah, give it till March. Yeah,
give it till March.
It's so bad that we're in the situation with Kyrie, where everyone is just expecting him to go off the rails again.
I loved Kyrie. Kyrie at the Cavs was one of my favorite players as well. He's so explosive, so technically gifted. Those handballs.
Just fun to watch.
Yeah.
I think he needed LeBron. He needs LeBron. Yeah.
he's not like what we saw at the Nets like last season. We saw at Boston. He's not. He can't be the star. He needs
Yeah,
somebody with him,
yeah,
like
he's not.
LeBron, KD.
But he has the ego of the star player.
Yeah,
He's not. Well, he's talented enough, but he's not the right person to be the main player.
he's got the like not mentality, the Kobe ego, but the
Yeah, he
the,
sort of
the
has the Kobe mindset without the Kobe killer instinct, maybe,
yeah.
because he always wants to take the shots. He always wants to takes the game winning shots. Doesn't make many of them. But yeah, he wants to be Kobe, but he's just not. He's not.
Sadly, he's not Kobe.
Yeah.
And yeah, that pretty much sums up the Nets. Like I can yeah their ceiling, I can see them finishing like 5th, 6th in the East, 4th,
Yeah,
5th,
I think
6th around that mid table.
fourth is probably the highest I think they would go. Maybe a second round exit. Um, Depends on if Kerry can keep sane.
Depends on what the structure of the playoffs is, because
Yeah,
they could go on a playoff run if they get like favorable matchups.
yeah. Well, if they get someone like Indiana in the first round with a rookie head coach, um, that could be a winnable thing. If they match up against Boston or the new look Philadelphia, hopefully, you never know. It could be a bit dicey for them in the first round.
Yeah, no, well, good luck to them. Good luck to them. And moving miles away from New York over to Toronto and the Raptors up in Canada, the boys, another season, and probably just gonna be another good season. What do you think's gonna happen?
Yeah, they've already lost Marc Gasol to Barcelona.
Which I think is a
Fred
good
VanVleet,
move.
yeah, he's washed up.
Gasol,
Yeah,
yeah, you could see from the Raptors playoff run, Gasol's time in the NBA is up. For how good he
yeah,
was
and
the season before with Kawhi, for what he played like this season, there was a massive drop off.
yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, Van Vliet is a free agent. Um, it's a weird situation because he's a starter for them now, which I don't like. Back when he was a backup point guard, he was electric. He was one of the best six men in the league. I thought he thrived in that role. Um, if you could sign him back to put him back as the sixth man, perfect. But he's not going to accept that. He's going to go to a team who's going to overpay him like the Hornets did with Terry Rozier. Um, so if you can bring him back, do it, but like don't pay above your means to bring him back.
Yeah, so they're not a deep team anyway. Like we saw in the playoffs, a lot of those players were playing 45 minutes. Like Anunoby, Siakam, Lowry, Van Fleet were playing very heavy minutes. So losing him is going to be a blow, not just because he's a good player, but because they don't have the depth. And obviously, with the sus stuff that's going on with Terrence Davis right now, he might even make the season. His court case
Yeah,
is in December, probably no, obviously before the season will start. So whatever happens with that, he he might not be there for the season. That's another guard they possibly might lose.
and Kyle Lowry being 35 now,
Yeah,
aging, like at some point he's going to be due for a regression, and losing their best assistant coach as well. Like that, a lot of things have gone against them so far.
what are their options for guards in the off season?
So have a look. I'm assuming they don't have much money.
Yeah.
They tied up in Kyle Lowry, Pascal Siakam, Serge Ibaka. They haven't got much money at all. So I think they're going to have to look for bargains. Maybe someone like a DJ Augustine. That could be a decent option.
That could be very good for them.
Yeah, maybe a Rajon Rondo. Maybe
Also be very good.
yeah, but yeah, there's not many options at all.
No, it's not a great off season or free agency this year, and I'd say both of us. You did show a lot of hate to Pascal Siakam in the playoffs. Not a fan of him and how he works. Is that just a playoff issue, or do you think that's going to affect them in the regular season?
I'm sure Siakam will bounce back. You'll have a good regular season. As long as he's the best player on your team in the regular season, he's going to average 20 points, probably 23 points. He'll help them win 45, 50 games. So they can be a good regular season team again. But yeah, when it comes to the playoffs, especially if they haven't got Van Vliet, that's another shot-making player that they've lost. All of a sudden, your best players are Kyle Lowry, who's very good, Anunoby, who hasn't really proved himself to be a shot creator. He can make shots, like we saw in the Boston series, the game winner, but he's not a creator. Siakam, he got exposed in the playoffs. And Ibaka, again, he's not someone who can create his own shots. So all of a sudden, they're quite an awkward team, quite a one-dimensional team, who would probably be too reliant on Kyle Lowry, and at this point in his career, you don't want him taking all the shots,
And we're forgetting about Norman Powell as well. Is it Norman Powell's time to step up as a bucket maker?
He had a good season, but he's very inconsistent. I think it was his best career of the season, of his best season of his career. But I saw Raptors fans were fed up with him. Apparently he loves taking shots. Even if he's shooting like 0 for 15, he will always shoot instead of passing to the open man, which sometimes can be a good trait, sometimes can be a detrimental trait. So, he's a weird player.
Yeah. Thinking about their team now, it could be a bad season for them.
They'll make the playoffs for sure.
Because the East isn't overly competitive.
Yeah, but I think their window of winning the championship is gone.
Yeah,
I think they'll go back down to finishing between maybe 3rd seed and 6th seed. But then again, Nick Nurse is a very good coach, and he probably adds multiple wins just because of his ability alone.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see who they do bring in for agency, or if they try and is Van Fleet sign and trade an option?
That could be a very good option for them. I'm not sure. Like if you went to the Knicks, I mean, the best way they could get is Randall. When they have Siakam, they have no use for him.
Did they sign Randall? The Knicks are ruining everything by signing Randall on a massive contract.
I know. Yeah, I don't really know Van Vliet's options. To be fair, I haven't really looked much into cap space. Maybe the Cavaliers could be an option for him, or the Pistons. I saw Christian Wood wants to leave the Pistons. Maybe it can be some sort of deal involved there with Van Vliet is sent to the Pistons, and Christian Wood and Derrick Rose is sent to the Raptors. Something like that could be a very good move.
That would push Raptors from the 6th, 5th seed up to the 3rd seed again.
Oh yeah, back to 2nd or 3rd seed. I'm not sure if that's entirely realistic, but then again, the Pistons are back to rebuilding. Christian Wood doesn't want to stay, and Derrick Rose doesn't fit in a rebuilding team. So it could be fairly plausible, I guess.
Looking at their picks again, what do you know? What pick the Raptors have this season?
They got pick 29 and pick 59. Huh. So only 2 picks. But then again, in this class, if they get rid of Van Vliet, they can definitely get a good point guard at 29. So, instant replacement.
Yeah. So, yeah, that could be an option for them. Or
I think that should be the option for them. Replace Fred if he does go.
I think if I was in charge, I would definitely go for a sign and trade.
Yeah, sign and trades are weird because it's so many moving parts that have to be agreed to. But you look at when we let Jimmy Butler go, we didn't just let him go for nothing. We did get a player back, not a very good player, Josh Richardson, but better than nothing, I suppose.
I mean, the one you look at is the KD, the Nets, and sending D'Lo to that's brilliant.
Yeah, and they ended up getting the Minnesota pick for next season, which incredible move.
Yeah, so Toronto just they're not a team that you would worry about. They're losing. There's possibility of losing some key players or a key player, but you have faith in Nick Nurse and the whole team to bring somebody and make it work.
They got a top 5 coach and they got a top 5 president of basketball operations, Masai Ujiri. If you've got to have complete trust and faith in those two, because they've already proven to be unbelievably good at their job. So they're gonna find a way to make this a good team.
Yeah. I think again their ceiling probably from the 3rd seed to the 6th seed, depending on how the off season goes.
Yeah, second on exit again.
Good luck to them. Did you see that they could be possibly they might have to play like their home games in the US?
I saw Kansas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was there. How much of an effect would that have on the team? Do you think that would like matter at all not playing at the Scotiabank?
They'd get used to it. Like, if there's no fans allowed in the arenas, it probably won't have much of an effect. But if there is fans allowed and they go into all these arenas with fans and then they have to play back in Kansas with no fans, I think that would be quite unfair, and it probably would affect them negatively.
Yeah, because obviously if they played in Kansas, the Canadian fans won't be able to travel into the US to go to the games. But I think they're trying to get a small number of fans in the arenas. It's becoming more and more in the football in Europe. There's small crowds in a lot of countries.
Yeah.
I
Well,
feel
in
like
the NFL,
it's
they
easy.
got fans at the arenas,
Yeah.
at the stadiums.
With how big these arenas and stadiums are, it's quite easy just to socially distance like families. Just put them like 4 seats apart. So yeah, they'll definitely be pushing for it, all the owners and that, because that's what brings the money in.
Yeah, but then I wonder if one player gets corona. I wonder if the league would. I don't want to say overreact, but would they overreact and just completely cancel everything? You know, in
Let's
the
hope not.
NFL, literally from one team, I think there was about 20 players got it, and
I
they
saw
just
that.
got rid of the players, and that was it. They carried on playing.
Yeah, well, let's hope coronavirus kind of calms down everywhere. It makes sport a lot more easier.
Yeah.
Big up Toronto. Good luck to them. Good luck. Well, that's the Atlantic Division. That's where that's our opinions on these teams and how we think their seasons are going to go and what they should be doing. Could be a good season for some. Probably not going to be a good season for the Knicks. But what do you expect? This has been the 32nd episode. It's our 33rd. Oh, I've messed up the numbers again. Who cares? Who cares? Thanks for watching, guys. Have a nice.